Hey, what's happening, everybody? It's me, Crazyfrankie, and I'd like to welcome you to my Week 16 4 key game picks. Before we get into those picks, current updates from playoff seedings in both the AFC and NFC conferences. Beginning in the AFC, the New England Patriots now hold the number 1 seed. The Pittsburgh Steelers are the 2 seed, the Jacksonville Jaguars are the 3rd seed, the Kansas City Chiefs are the 4th seed, and the current wildcard spots, the Titans hold the 5th seed, and the Bills are at the 6th seed. In the NFC, the Philadelphia Eagles still hold the number 1 seed. The Vikings are the 2nd seed. The Rams are the 3rd seed. The Saints are the 4th seed. The Panthers, currently the 5th seed, holding the first playoff spot. And the Falcons also holding the 2nd spot at the number 6 seed. Before I get into quick thoughts from last week and, of course, my picks and all, keep in mind that next week, week 17, will be my special edition video. What does that mean? It means that I do my best to break down possible playoff scenarios, my predictions on who may get what, and if there's some key games in there, I will talk about those for a minute. Every time I do a special edition video, if you go back through all my videos I've done in the past, it's really my longest video of the year, even though my videos have been long lately. I just kind of break down possible the playoff scenarios, what may happen, what I think is going to be like in current playoff positionings. Maybe there's some divisions that haven't been clinched yet, and maybe there'll have to be some games that I will give my honest opinion of who I think will win those games as part of it. So it's kind of a different video from my normal my 4 key game picks. All right. A lot of things went on in week number 15. You could spend a whole video talking about what happened last week with the main topics and all. And obviously, of course, number 1 I got to get to is really what happened in the Pittsburgh New England game. A couple things that come to mind. Obviously, because was that a ruling touchdown made by one of Pittsburgh's wide receivers? I'm going to break this down very quickly here. I personally thought it was a catch. I know there's some rules that do play in effect at the catch rule, and then there's also the goal line rule. A catch move is a completed catch. You have to have full possession. And then the goal line rule is that if the ball crosses the plane, it is a touchdown. I really wondered about that because everybody's seen this video so many times already. I personally think he crossed the plane. He had control of the ball before he went down. The ball had already crossed the plane. I thought it was a touchdown. I really think that what the refs made the call, I personally don't think it was the right call. Even though in the books, because of the catch rule, it's in the books, and they went by the books. But, the rule book says that they got it right. But common sense tells you the Steelers got screwed. But a couple of things I also kept in mind for the Steelers. Of course, the game-ending interception. It was kind of like Malcolm Butler in the Super Bowl with the Seahawks a couple of years ago. I don't understand. Ben Roethlisberger, a veteran quarterback, should have known to at least to stop the clock. I also wondered, was it really true that Ben Roethlisberger wanted to stop the clock, or did the coaches tell him, no, go for it? I don't know if I believe that, in all honesty. I wonder what was the truth behind that. But another couple things here. Pittsburgh's defense did not do a good job of stopping Gronkowski. Gronkowski torched them all game long. And it didn't help. Look, Pittsburgh had the lead, but then they couldn't get any key first downs that made the Patriots get possession to take the lead. And I think to me that's that would really kill the Steelers in that game was they had the lead before the Patriots came back. And Pittsburgh did not make any key first downs. I think to me that was the reason why they lost that game is clock management. They did not do a good job in terms of getting key first downs in order to win. That is basically my honest opinion on that. The Patriots won. They just know how not to panic in any situation if they're losing in the game. You could tell the Falcons that last year in the Super Bowl. Of course, the other part was really the game against the Cowboys and the Raiders, where Gene Steratore, the referee, was that key first down by a paper. everybody said, with all this technology in advance, you would think by now the NFL would use some sort of technology without having to use actual chains to measure first downs. But in all honesty, I'm going to look. Throughout that whole drive when the Cowboys got that controversial first down, or you could say it's index card gate or chain gate, whatever you want to call it, they only got a field goal out of it. Personally, though, the Raiders, though, when they had possession, they got bailed out, well, sort of bailed out by a defensive pass interference penalty, which got them closer to the goal line. But yet, it was just by unfortunate disaster and heartbreaking that Derek Carr would fumble the ball near the pylon in the end zone, which ended up being a touchback. As much as I would like to say that the refs screwed the Raiders and all that, I mean, I don't agree with that. The Raiders screwed the Raiders. Derek Carr should have just ran the ball out of bounds. You would have saved yourself some time. You had a first down right there. I mean, I don't know what the idea was to just try to be a major hero just to get a touchdown immediately. I really think that the Raiders gambled too much on that, and that's what cost them the game. It wasn't the referees that cost them the game. It was gambling, and whatever kind of play calling Jack Del Rio did in that game certainly didn't help the Raiders, and now their playoff chances now are getting even more slim. And finally, though, it brings mind to Aaron Rodgers here. Now, I know the Packers really gambled a lot with Aaron Rodgers coming back. He was not, even though the doctors cleared him, he did not look 100%. He besides the rust factor, I mean, Carolina their defense did a great job in really holding them at bay. It's just that it was just unfortunate that Aaron Rodgers just couldn't pick up side. Now I know last week I did pick the Packers last week, but hey, get the Panthers credit. I mean, their playoff hopes are hanging by a thread as well. The Packers are not the only one. So is the Panthers. Their playoff hopes are barely hanging in there in the balance. Anyways, enough about that. Let's get into Week 16. From the schedule, it don't look like there was only three key games here, but I would consider maybe for I actually did pick 4 games. One of these picks is going to be a very easy pick. 3 games I can see being tough picks here. But you be the judge of that. Let me begin with key game number 1. And it obviously has to be the easiest pick from these games I'm about to talk about here. It's the Buffalo Bills and the New England Patriots. Patriots are 12-point favorite in this one. Key stats from their respective games last week. Tyrod Taylor going 17 of 29, 224 yards and 1 touchdown pass. Brady last week against the Steelers, going 22 of 35, 298 yards, 1 touchdown pass, and 1 interception. The Bills have a tough task against the Patriots here. The Patriots know they want to cling on to that number 1 spot because obviously a loss here and Pittsburgh winning their next 2 games could still put them out of the number 1 seed. New England definitely has to win the next 2 games in order to assure themselves. Because currently right now New England and Pittsburgh are still tied with the same record. But I think I don't know if this is a clear scenario here that if the Patriots were to win next week, were to win this game and then next week, they pretty much clinch the number 1 seed. But even if they were to lose this game and Pittsburgh winning, even if the records end up being tied, the Patriots are still on the tiebreaker because they beat the Steelers last week. So there is kind of a lot riding on this game. But to make it very quick, though, you know full well you got to go with the New England Patriots here. They're going to beat the Buffalo Bills. For the Bills here, any loss here between this game or next week's game, and next week in week number 17, they're pretty much eliminated. So if you're a Bills fan, your playoff hopes now are just a tiny little dot, and it is just sad to say you got New England this week, and you could pretty much kiss your playoff chances goodbye because I don't see New England losing this game, even if they go with backups here. It would take a miracle for Buffalo. Buffalo would have to play extremely hard in order to have a chance to beat New England. But I just don't see it happening here. New England knows New England's got total control of the number 1 seed, and they pretty much will get it by the looks of it here. And that's why you got to go with the Patriots here. Patriots over the Bills. All right, key game number 2. Okay, now we're getting to some tough picks here. All right, let's begin. The key game number 2 here with one is the Atlanta Falcons and the New Orleans Saints matchup number 2. Now, I did talk about this game the first time 2 weeks ago. For this game, though, this is now in New Orleans here. Now, before I get to Ryan and Breeze's key stats from last week, both teams really in their respective games, they didn't play all that well. Atlanta barely able to beat the Buccaneers. The Buccaneers actually gave them quite a fight last Monday night. New Orleans, though, they struggled through 3 quarters, but luckily they were able to run away with it in the 4th quarter against the Jets. The Saints are a 5.5-point favorite in this one, and don't be surprised if that number gets even lower before Sunday's game. Matt Ryan for the Falcons went 17-31, 212 yards and 1 touchdown pass. Drew Brees went 26-36, 281 yards, 2 touchdown passes, and 1 interception. This game could not be any more closer the way these two teams played their games last week. It's going to be a much bigger, I think it's going to be a much bigger nail biter than the first meeting in Atlanta. Are we going to see more points in this one? I think we are. Both teams, defense-wise, did not play all that well. Even though the Falcons, technically, their defense really was the worst out of the two. But I think this time we're going to see a very high-scoring game. Especially anytime the Saints are at home, the score is high. And this is what we're expecting. And this is what I'm expecting in this game. It's going to be a very high-scoring game. Now, Atlanta won the first time. But the way they played against the Buccaneers, who's to say the Saints didn't see that game and knowing what kind of strategy to do against the Falcons here? Because the Falcons need to rely a lot on their running game again to beat the Saints here. But the Saints I think they kind of learned their lesson here, and I think they're going to be much more prepared in this game. Now, I picked the Saints the first time in that first meeting, and I'm still going to pick the Saints again. I think the Saints here will get their payback here. But expect this game to be very tight all the way. But I like the New Orleans Saints here. I'm going to stick with it again. Now, I know if I get burned again in this pick, you can pretty much call me out on that one. I mean, I really don't care. I mean, I love talking about football. That's the main point of my videos here. But I'm going to go with the New Orleans Saints here, but expect a very close game here. Saints over the Falcons. Key game number 3, the Rams and the Titans. It's big for both these two teams. One for the Rams, if they win this game, they win the division. Because they beat the Seahawks last week. And a win here, pretty much the Rams will win the division, even if it ends up being a tie for the same record, because the Rams would hold the tiebreaker in the end. So all the Rams have to do is win their game. Or the Seahawks lose against the Cowboys. And that's my next pick, and I will get into that in just a minute. Jared Goff last week against the Seahawks went 14-21, 120 yards, 2 touchdown passes, and 1 interception. Marcus Mariota, 23 of 33, 241 yards, and 2 touchdown passes. Now, the Rams really proved themselves last week. They are a 6.5-point favorite in this one against the Titans here. But don't be surprised for the Titans here. Their playoff hopes right now are on the line here because they can't afford a loss here. Because a loss here and the Ravens could be right back in it. So this is a big game for both these two teams. Well, I think it's more bigger for the Titans than the Rams is. Because the Rams know they hold the tiebreaker regardless if the Seahawks and Rams are tied in the division. The Rams will hold the tiebreaker and they end up winning the division. Seattle could be out. This is probably going to be, I wouldn't say it will be a very close game. I'm actually going to go with the Rams here. The Titans had a chance to beat the 49ers last week. They didn't make their case there. Give the 49ers a ton of credit last week against the Titans. They did a great job in stopping Tennessee, even though the game went back and forth in a game that the Titans should have won. But now you have a tougher test against a very high-powered offense in the Rams. And this is why I'm picking the Rams in this game here. I think they'll wrap up the division here and pretty much will put a stranglehold now on Seattle's playoff hopes. And I'm going to stick with that pick here. And it's kind of an easy pick, but don't be surprised if this game gets close. But I like the Rams in this one here. Rams over the Titans. And finally, key game number 4, as I mentioned, it's the Seahawks and the Cowboys. Now, if the Rams do beat the Titans here, Seattle may be out of it if they don't beat the Cowboys. Because the scenario is that a Rams win or a Seahawks loss will give the Rams the division no matter what. Russell Wilson last week in that awful game he had against the Rams. 14 of 30, 142 yards and 1 touchdown pass. And, of course, Prescott in the controversial game against the Raiders, 18 of 27, 212 yards, no touchdown passes, but intercepted twice in that game. The Raiders defense did actually do a good job of holding the Cowboys at bay in the first half, but in the second half they fell apart against the Cowboys. Now, I think Ezekiel Elliott may be back for this game. I'm not sure either. That'll be in Week 17. Cowboys now kind of are in the driver's seat a little bit here, but they still have a long shot to get in the playoffs now that the Packers are eliminated. But the Cowboys would still need a lot of help in order to even have a chance to get in the postseason. Same thing with the Seahawks here. The reason why I call it a key game is because both these teams mathematically are still alive. And the loser of this game pretty much, I think, will be eliminated. This is going to be a tough game. The Cowboys are a 5-point favorite in this one. I agree with that. I don't think that number is going to change. Seattle, I don't know if the distractions finally will go away. I don't think they will. The injuries are really caught up with this team. Russell Wilson is basically carrying this team right on his back, and it's just too much for him. If the Cowboys get Ezekiel Elliott for this game and all, I think to me the Cowboys are just going to run over the Seahawks here, pretty much eliminating them from playoff contention, and that's what I kind of think is going to happen in this game. If the Seahawks somehow make it a game, the Cowboys, I think, will take over in the fourth quarter, and they'll just run away with it. And you got to go with the Cowboys here, and I think that's my prediction of what is going to happen in this game. The Seahawks may make it a close game, but come fourth quarter, the Cowboys are going to take over. And especially the games in Dallas, too. Dallas does play pretty good at home. And that is why I'm going to stick with that pick, and I think that's what I'm going to happen here. The Cowboys over the Seahawks. All right, everybody, that wraps up my picks for week number 16, excuse me. Of course, my special edition videos pick will be next week. I had a little mishap with my blog last week. For some reason, I had trouble signing in. I just barely got that fixed. So, I will definitely work on my blog. You'll definitely see all of my picks for week number 16. And I will post up the scores from week number 15 as well, as it did not get through to do my whole blog post last week because I had problems with the blogging website that I use. Of course, it's Blogspot. I don't like to give shout-outs that much. So, yeah, this time for sure, there will be a blog post. Don't worry about it. And I know I'm late with this video because, it's been a very, very tiring week for me. It's Christmas week, of course. And I got family coming in, and of course I had to work, and it's been very draining on me. As you can tell, I'm pretty tired in this video here, and I do apologize for that. Anyways, guys, I'll see you all next week. Have a Merry Christmas. Enjoy the holiday, and I'll see you guys for my special edition video next week. Take care.